So we're down in Castle Island with grass partners Michael and Bernie O'Sullivan, and I'm standing in a field of 4N grazer that was sown last autumn, but then back in the spring of this year we went about oversowing some white clover. I suppose there was a big focus on white clover this year with the way fertiliser prices were going, and I suppose in the bigger picture of the climate challenges that agriculture faces in trying to reduce our emissions from the sector. So there was a great interest in sowing white clover and trying to reduce our nitrogen fertiliser bills. So I suppose the benefits of incorporating white clover into your grass swards is firstly the fertiliser effect. So white clover is a legume, it fixes nitrogen from the atmosphere and converts it into a form that's available to the grass in the sward. But also animal performance can increase when we have enough white clover in the sward. So it's a really high protein plant. So we see increases in milk yields, we see increases in dry matter intake, and also the dry matter yield in the sward that I mentioned earlier on. So in terms of making our grassland systems as sustainable as possible, white clover is going to have a major role going forward. So white clover can be incorporated from the start in a brand new reseed. It's included in most forage mixtures that you buy off the shelf, or it can be oversown into an existing sward. So that was the approach that we took here. We oversowed it into an established sward. So there's a couple of key things to remember when trying to establish clover, and in particular trying to oversow clover. So first of all, the soil. We want good soil fertility. As with any crop, we want to have optimal levels of soil P, K and pH. So we're looking at pH levels of at least 6 to try to get the best value from our white clover. The next is the timing, and it's with soil temperature again, back to soil. The timing of when we do this, white clover needs soil temperatures to be a little bit warmer than grass does. So we're looking at about April, the end of April into May and June for sowing white clover, especially for oversowing. Because when we're oversowing, as well as the soil temperature, we need enough moisture to get the seed germinated and get it started. So April and May are times when we're hopefully guaranteed enough rainfall to get the plant moving at the start. Ideally we want to oversow the white clover at about 2 kilos to the acre, and then after that once the seed is out on the ground, we want to make sure that there's enough light getting down to the seed and to the new seedling to allow it to establish properly. So as with sowing any seed, we need good soil seed contact. So in the oversowing context, I suppose we'd be grazing a sward like this down tight to the ground, and hopefully we'll see plenty of clay. If the sward is a little bit older and might need a bit of roughing up to expose some clay, we can use a disc or use a Tyne harrow or something like that just to expose some clay for the seed to get into. But also the type of sward that we choose to sow into, to oversow the white clover into. So we're looking for a pretty open sward, so that's why a new reseed works well. We haven't got that butt of material developed yet. So if we graze, so for the likes of this sward behind me here, if we graze that down tight, we'll see plenty of bare soil exposed. So that's ideal for your seed to be oversown into. Then we hope for the rain to come after, we get a good germination, and then after that we'd graze maybe about 10 days to 2 weeks after we set out the seed, again just to keep the light and keep the established sward out of the way of the new seedling. And then after this we'd probably go for about 3 rounds, try and graze covers of 1,000 or 1,100 kilos of dry matter per hectare, just again to let the light into the sward and to let the new seedlings establish and strengthen enough. Okay, so this is one of the white clover seedlings that I just picked from the field behind me here. It's about 4 months old at this stage. It was sown at the end of May this year. So you can see we're still at the early stages of development. The plant is reliant mainly on this taproot here. That's where it's going to get all of its nutrients and its moisture from at the minute. It's not fixing nitrogen yet, but you can see to the side that there's a little stolon forming, and there's a couple of other ones as well. And this stolon is going to become part of the mature plant, and it's on its way to maturation now. So for the first 12 months, as I said, this is relying on this taproot, but you can see here there's a small little adventitious root, it's called, coming out of the base of the new stolon. This is where your nodules are going to form, which will house your rhizobia, which is your nitrogen factory, and these are the guys that are going to be actively fixing nitrogen hopefully for us next summer and allow us to back off with our artificial fertiliser. So if you'd like some more details on how to manage white clover on your farm, then you can download the DLF Clover Agronomy Guide from our website, and you can also call any of the team on the numbers below.